Good afternoon. My name is Elena, and I am a part of cybersecurity team at Tesla. Today's presentation will be covering Cyber Intelligence Program Plan. The agenda for today's presentation is to cover what threat intelligence is, high visibility breaches, what are the and their capabilities, what we should be expecting, cyber kill chain and how it can help us, what is working well today, and what we should be expecting now and in the future. Ultimately, we would like to introduce a risk reduction plan and provide some specific mitigation measures. So what is threat intelligence? According to Recorded Future, the threat intelligence is ultimately providing us with a context. The context is needed in order for us to make the right decisions. What is the context? Well, who is attacking us? Why are they attacking us? What can they potentially do? Which techniques they are known for? All of this provides us with to understand the adversary and understand what we can do to withstand the attack. When we're talking about the modern attack surface, we have to mention that it has changed dramatically in the last 30 years. It's no surprise that it's rapidly growing and it's highly dynamic, and all of our devices are increasingly interconnected. We're talking about public clouds, we're talking about on-prem as well as the remote IT systems. We're talking about web applications and the thousands of those that are actually being spun up, whether we know about them or not. All it takes nowadays is a credit card, the ability to log into the AWS, create yourself a web application and attach it to a corporate environment. We haven't thought about industrial security as much as we are looking at it nowadays. The expansion of and convergence of OT and IT system really represent the problem. Those devices that have been created in the 70s and 80s were certainly not designed with the security in mind. We also think about the attacks on their identity, and especially what a significant impact in terms of the number of cyber attacks, successful cyber attacks that we had in the past couple of years. And I specifically want to draw their attention to the assets that are internet facing. With the expanding surface, we just don't keep up with what is on our network, and that will create a potential entry point for any of the threat actors that are looking to get into our environment. So significant breaches in the past involved software vulnerabilities. The last one we've heard of was MoveIt, and before that was Log4Shell, as well as the famous WannaCry. And when it comes to internet assets, we can look at the Equifax breach that showed the significance of managing the attack surface as tight as possible. The Panama Papers proven that web apps need to be secured. And of course, we're looking at the public cloud breaches, industrial OT environments, and identity associated breaches. So who are the threat actors and what are their motivations? Broadly speaking, we can say that there are several categories, and they're all different. They use different tools. Sometimes they mask themselves to use different tools, but their motivations is what's going to determine what type of attack it's going to be and a potential data breach, exposure, and the damage that is associated with it. So we have cyber criminals as well as cyber terrorists. We have nation state sponsored attackers. If we look at petty and not petty vulnerability that has been exploited in OT environments in Ukraine, it just shows the significance of well-funded operation, especially when it's politically driven. We'll look at the thrill seekers as well as the hacktivists and insider threats as well. So what are their motivation? When we talk about the nation state attacks, obviously political motivation is what is at stake. And this type of attacks, they go after various targets, as their purpose is not always evident. They would try to mask themselves as a financially motivated attack and put the blame at someone else's door, where it could be just collecting the intelligence and information and the extent of the data that is being stolen, or the amount of insider knowledge that a nation state threat actors can gain is potentially frightening. Cyber criminals are the ones that are motivated by profit. It's fairly simple. They like to use ransomware in order to get a quick buck. Hacktivists, they are ideologically driven. Terrorist groups obviously promote violence. Thrill seekers just look for satisfaction and self-validation. And insider threat is normally discounted. We will be looking at the insider threat a little bit more down the line, as this presents a focus area of this presentation. Now let's quickly look at the landscape, where we have our general cyber threats, we have our specific trends in 2023, we have industry-specific threats, and as well as the Tesla-specific threats at the organizational level. So it's pretty simple, meaning that the same attacks that we've seen before are still very prevalent, especially with the social engineering. And the advanced persistent threats are also something that every organization deals with. Malware, ransomware, various exploits, and the theft of credential is the theme of the general overview. When it comes to 2023, we'll look at the cloud breaches, as well as theft credentials as the top weaknesses. We also been exposed to the MOVEit exploits, as well as the ransomware that is on the rise. Industry-specific threats, as for us in manufacturing, it's IT-OT convergence, where the amount of IT devices could be up to half of those in segregated areas as OT devices, which obviously presents an expanded attack surface. It's basically a vanishing air gap. We also look at the old machinery that is presenting with an issue of how to secure a 70, 80-year-old IT device that was not meant for it. And we look at the potential changes line, which can potentially create a disaster for society. So Tesla-specific threats, we're looking at the targeted attacks on the credentials to steal our R&D development ideas, as well as the disclosure of sensitive intellectual property details, and ultimately we're looking at the insider threat. What is cyber kill chain? It has been developed by Lockheed Martin. It's a network protection mechanism. It involves a sequence of stages that assumes that attacker will do the reconnaissance first, then weaponization, deliver the attack, do the exploitation, installation, command and control, and effectively will have the achieve their object. If we are looking at every single stage and prepare ourselves for every single stage by creating mitigation controls, that will help us to secure our environment. So what are our recommendations? Well, let's start with what working well. We have received a pen test report that seems to show that we have a very good, robust SOC that we have purposely built, and that serves us well. Our vulnerability management system is also operating quite well. So we are in control of the basic hygiene. So the weaknesses that we discovered that require additional countermeasures is that there's an evident decline in employees' morale, especially in the last 3 years. We have created potential gaps for exposure of our internal research development plans. Think about Lucid Motors, Rivian, XPeng, etc., and all of the lawsuits that we have currently going on. We need to create the internal employee training, because that is very important in order to increase morale and decrease the potential internal threats. We also have discovered that our external attack surface can do some additional monitoring, as we discovered CVEs as well as the expired certificates on our external facing service, which needs our immediate attention. So what do we expect in the future? Well, apart from the general threats that we have covered, and industry-specific and Tesla-specific threats, we'll also look at the emergence of OT-related breaches. And being a manufacturing company, we should certainly deploy an OT-specific security mechanism. We're looking at the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and we should be introducing that as a part of our threat intel program as well, just to stay on the top of developments. We used various references in this presentation, which we will be distributing for your attention later on, if you're interested to cover the material that we have presented here. Thank you very much for your attention. We have a detailed paper that goes over specific mitigation controls and the suggested timelines, and we're looking forward to discussing it with you and moving the program forward. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening.